This is just some changes in Black women's lifestyle that would help deal with the permanent underclass. So, first off, poverty to me is unnatural and could be considered warfare against Black women. Until Black women create an environment among themselves only that is natural, like not having to pay for basic living necessities like fruit, vegetables, and water that comes out of the ground for free, Black women have to learn how to navigate a capitalist society in the meantime. It doesn't have to be an extreme like how the Black excellence movements were, telling people to hustle all day just to brag how rich they are, but moving smart to stay out of poverty. How Black women should navigate changes in the world involve major lifestyle changes, especially in terms of priorities and spending habits. There's a shift and a concerted effort to keeping Black women in a low socioeconomic status. The push for this is constant, so Black women's push back against that would also have to be constant. Solution and actions towards dealing with the permanent underclass and all the associated issues that will come with it is not to freak out and make hasty decisions, but to be prepared, resourceful, and smart. Most Western women's reaction to any financial hardship is to seek help from a male, but this should not be Black women's move. No normal or healthy relationship involves the male-ran state forcing women into poverty and pushing them towards any male group for what they consider provision. That is not a consensual relationship, and that is not natural or okay. So that's why I have an issue with tradwife foolishness or any attempts to brainwash young Black women into thinking just hide under a male who makes more money than you. It's not going to work like that. There's a Black girl online I've seen talking about how she wants to be with a high-earning male from that lowest-earning demographic. She's seen 1 million older women online giving warnings about these males, yet she's under the impression that she's more special than them. So she'll magically not have these issues of divorce, abuse, sexually transmitted diseases, etc. But she will. Part of breaking generational curses and avoiding poverty is not making those decisions that have lifelong effects. Society tries to romanticize young women making negative life-altering decisions, but there's nothing cute or romantic about that, despite what we see in the media. Do not sell yourself into slavery. Being a wife is not that serious, especially when a male-dominated government is trying to change laws to legally enslave women and force you to stay and breed children like some farm animal. Y'all gotta understand how crazy Black women will sound talking about Harriet Tubman risking her life to free slaves just to turn around and talk about wanting to be in the exact same situation with a male regardless of his skin color. That's just insanity. It's gendered instead of racial, so apparently that makes it okay. Every Black woman can't be helped. So we can start with that. Give warnings and advice to other Black women, but tell them once and move on. If they don't listen, then that's on them. You can't force anyone to do anything, and some people choose to learn the hard way. Poverty has been very normalized and romanticized to Black women, so we would have to be very active in changing that entire destructive mindset. It has to start with taking everything seriously. Being proactive is a necessity when dealing with the permanent underclass. Putting things off or just hoping for the best is not going to work. I look at it mostly in terms of not only gradually getting a better everyday life and standard of living, but also being prepared for emergencies or a crisis. So I've spoken about politics and how people use that and other things as an excuse to attack Black women's resources. Again, I see an attack on finances, and the ability to provide for yourself is an attempt on your life. It's really that serious, and that's how I think Black women should be reacting to that. And you guys have seen from my finances videos how I feel about that. Prepping for emergencies is not getting caught with your pants down, so to speak. Basically, you have to make it so that any emergency or unexpected big expense is not going to break you, but just slightly set you back. It provides a cushion for you to fall back on. If you don't have the cushion, it's going to be 10 times harder to get back to where you were. Being poor is expensive, so it's going to be more work and take more expenses. It's like being in quicksand, and once you're in it, you have to know what you're doing to get out of it. This requires a lot of spending discipline and saving. Keep emergency savings in a high-yield savings account. The biggest is that income needs to grow. Black women can make the world's changes work for them by investing and selling certain items. Make upcoming changes in the economy work for you by investing in industries that boom as a result of a crisis and take advantage of it. Never let a crisis go to waste. If a bunch of people are getting imprisoned because they're committing crimes, invest in the prison industrial complex. If a bunch of people are getting sick, research and invest in the company that makes the medication. Being able to invest like this means you have to pay attention to what's going on so you can be ahead of it and then know when to pull out. Since the value of cash in America is going down, put your money in items that will hold value like precious metals, gold and silver, rare collector's items, in certain real estate that consistently goes up in value. Because of the crime rate against Black women, safety also has to be a priority. This isn't 100% finance related, but does involve some expenses. Getting a firearm, having multiple ways to protect yourself, and having the income to live in a higher income safe area is important. Not just for temporarily living, but even if some local emergency happens, you want to make sure that your area isn't suddenly turning into a war zone. And if it does, you have to be prepared to deal with that. For some women who can afford it, that would look like reinforcing doors and windows so it can't be broken into, and getting a home security system that will work offline. There's lots of different ways to prioritize your safety. Be honest with yourself. You know what your issues are, your pros, cons, and everything you need to work on. Being honest helps you prepare so the actions you end up taking will actually be helpful to you specifically and knock problems off your list. Don't be distracted and pay attention. Stop engaging in repetitive and unintelligible debates over silly topics, especially arguing with bums online. It doesn't need your attention. Find important topics to pay attention to, because in an information war, especially with tech, information is king. A rise in emotional intelligence and talking less is helpful. The more you talk, the less you understand what's going on around you, which kind of connects with the last point. Don't engage in debates with people over unimportant conversations. Emotional intelligence includes self-awareness and discipline to know when you're doing something that works against your ultimate goal or just wasting your time. Educate yourself. Economically, educate yourself by being financially literate. If you're not financially literate, somebody somewhere is going to try to take advantage of you. Research your history. For a lot of people, they start with doing DNA testing, which I think is interesting, especially for Black women who live in America. Research your history that is not mainstream. For example, some people basically pretend like Black women have no history or didn't even exist before slavery, which is obviously ridiculous when we more history than anyone else. On different sites, I have people sending me all types of interesting info, and some I looked up myself. I'm linking something in the comments. Learning your history helps you put your current issues in better context, provide more clarity, and gives you a better idea what you should and shouldn't be doing for your future. Another important tip that's very specific to Black women: don't spend your energy trying to change systems. SJWs lack foresight and can get Black women caught up. Capitalism is not going anywhere. You learn to move within the system you're in, or you're setting yourself to be unaware and fail. People are trying to compete with you. Just because you don't think a certain way doesn't mean other people don't also. So don't assume people are ignorant. Almost every day I see naive Black girls explaining issues to people as if they don't get it. They get it, they just don't care. They are off doing something that benefited them, while said Black girl is wasting her energy talking to a wall trying to convince people to care about societal issues. Young Black girls keep giving excuses to people for their very intentional hateful behavior, and that should stop. Nobody has been brainwashed. Their behavior is how they choose to behave. Understand that and then move on accordingly. The most important goal Black women can really have is create your own. Self-sufficiency is really the number one thing Black women can have that is life-changing for. From survival to anything non-important, whatever it is that you like or want, work towards having your own, especially with basic life necessities. Like it was mentioned earlier, it's insane that modern society has hustled people into paying for things that grow naturally out of the ground. The Black women in the news every weekend talking about their kids starving and food stamps going to migrants instead. They can build a garden or grow a food forest or greenhouse in their area and have year-round food coming straight from soil. Another huge way that can really impact Black women navigating the permanent underclass is investing in skills. Hard skills are usually job-related competencies and abilities, while soft skills are personal qualities and traits that impact how you work and get along with other people. Hard skills are often specific and applicable to a certain career. Soft skills are transferable to any type of job and helps you communicate better in your personal life too. Take classes and put yourself in a position of learning. I call it investing because the classes can cost time and money, but to me it's worth it. Or you can take a free class somewhere or online and it just costs time. I take one class per year and something I consider worth learning. You don't know what you don't know, which is why you have to constantly seek out knowledge. Keep up with important world updates and don't put yourself in an echo chamber. Black women tend to be behind the curve and getting the info scraps because of getting certain info late, which causes pivots to be too late. Even in terms of the economy, certain topics doesn't even get talked about in Black women's spaces until years after I already heard it in non-Black spaces. That's dangerously behind, and I would consider ignorance about what's going on in the world. This is how Black women get left holding the bag in so many situations. I listen to everything and everyone, even if I disagree with them, because that's how to get the most info. And then linking that to what I talked about in the video about the Korean women's movement, we also have to be aware we are not the only people in this country. There's a lot going on with everyone, and there's going to be a lack of awareness if Black women are moving like we live in a bubble separate from everyone else. Ignore attempted humbling propaganda. Part of this propaganda is constantly presenting issues to Black women and saying that Black women are the cause of all issues and should make it their life mission to fix. No. So first off, Black women only need to fix their own problems. We live in a patriarchy and it's not Black women's obligation to build anything for anyone. The propaganda that comes from outside of the so-called fake community is also perpetuated by white males constantly badgering Black women to do things like get married and raise kids in a better way. Mind you, white males are well aware that Black males are violent, degenerate, and etc. all the things. So they're either ignorant or playing dumb, but regardless, they have no intentions on actually giving you good advice like they keep claiming. Anyone telling you to procreate with Black males under any circumstance does not like you. I see these talking points everywhere, and I never see Black women question it. Question someone telling white women, hey Becky, avoid that male, he's going to beat you and abandon you with the child, but telling Black women, listen, all you have to do is give up your rights, be submissive, and magically this trash is going to create Wakanda for Black women, and if you claim he beat you, you probably just made that up because women are liars. If you claim he abandoned you, that didn't happen, you just kicked him out. So which one is it? And Black women know the answer to that. Black women should not even be having children. If you already have kids, don't have any more. For the ones already here, yes, you have a responsibility to raise your kids correctly. No one wants to deal with menaces to society. No, you don't have a responsibility to create any community with any male. Part of the setup is that you do the work. If it goes good, you don't get the credit. If it goes bad, and it will, you get all the blame. That's what happens when you have people intentionally sabotaging you in society, creating a chaotic environment, and then telling you that it was actually your magical matriarchy that came out of nowhere that caused these issues. When obviously we know this is a lie and a failing attempt at scapegoating and brainwashing Black women. Luckily for you, you actually don't have a community in this country, so you aren't obliged to give your resources away. That's what they mean when they say build. I have to link this to politics because people are trying to get Black women's support by talking about fixing a Black community that does not exist. That means they are working against you as a Black woman and setting you up to mule on behalf of a group of males. They are promising naive Black women that all their issues will disappear, they will never struggle, and they will get to be happy suburban housewives if they just allow pretend patriarch Pookie to enslave them. They really aren't offering Black women anything. This is not an issue Black women should be debating anyone about. No one is going to build a community, just get up and leave. Very simple. You're wasting your time debating with a group of males that has not built one functioning society in the history of the universe. But they do have a history of destroying entire civilizations. Black women should absolutely do a better job at raising the kids they already have, especially protecting their daughters and keeping their sons from harming people. But the behavior of these males is not a result of Black women's long nails or single motherhood. This is just how they behave and benefit from Black women constantly protecting their image by blaming it on external factors like culture, fatherlessness, slavery or whatever, and then historians washing the history of Black males' destructive and diabolical behavior. But speaking of patriarchy, or lack thereof, Waiting on reparations to be a thing and begging for outside help to function in life is a no-go for Black women. The government is not the solution to any issue you have. You have to stop running to the government to save you. The government does not like you and doesn't exist to help you. The government is not your friend or a benevolent, trustworthy entity that can be relied on to save your life and fix your problems. Nobody is coming to save you. If you don't save yourself, then you just won't be saved.